Hello everyone and welcome to my channel, Cooking for the Family. I'm Dyvonne and today I'm going to share with y'all how I make my rosemary and herb focaccia bread. I am making this bread for a get-together with some girlfriends. We're going to have a fun game night with some wine and cheese and finger foods, and this focaccia bread is just going to go perfect. I'm also going to share with y'all what to do if your dough just doesn't seem like it's really coming together like you want it to. And so what we're going to do first is we're going to start off with some bread flour, and I'm using 3½ cups of bread flour. My first measure cup actually is a 1½ cup measure, and with the bread flour, or with the flour, you want to make sure that you're spooning the flour into your measuring cup, especially like I'm not using a scale to measure it, so I'm going off the dry measurement of the cup size. And so try to spoon your flour into the cup so that way it doesn't get too packed into the cup. And you do want to make sure that you're using bread flour to make the focaccia bread or any doughs like breads, because it's going to give you that better structure and chew to your bread that you're expecting with something like focaccia or baked breads. Next, I'm going to put in some yeast, and I'm putting in 2¼ teaspoons of active dry yeast. Now, in the description box below, I will have a list of all the ingredients you need to make this wonderful rosemary herb focaccia bread. And also with this bread, you can make it into like little bite-sized pieces. But in addition to that, you can also make it into sandwiches. It makes great sandwiches. So this focaccia bread is going to bake up nice, where you can cut it, slice it in half to make some nice sandwiches. And next I'm going to put in some table salt, and I'm putting in 1½ teaspoons of table salt. Next we're going to add some sugar, and I'm putting in 1/2 teaspoon of regular sugar. So once we have our dry ingredients together, I'm going to go ahead and blend the ingredients and just mix them so everything, all the dry ingredients are all incorporated together well in my large mixing bowl. And also, I did not put in my rosemary herb just yet. I did not put any of my herbs in. We're going to do that a little bit later. So in the center of the bowl, in the center of the dough, I'm going to put some water, and I'm using just lukewarm water. And I'm starting off with 1 cup of lukewarm water. Total, I'm going to be kneading anywhere from 1¼ cup to 1½ cup. But I just start off with just a little bit at a time. So I initially put in just about 1/4 of the water. So that would have been 1/4 cup. And then I'm just going to gradually keep putting in the water and just kind of mixing it and drawing the dough into the water that's in the center. Now, I don't know if y'all can hear this, but there is a songbird outside my window right now, and it is just having a glorious time, and it just sounds so good. So I don't know if y'all can hear it, but it's a beautiful songbird that is just chirping away over here on this tree branch by my window. So I continue to add the water in the center of my bowl with the dough, keep drawing it in. Now next, what I do is I'm going to put in our extra virgin olive oil, and total I put in 2 tablespoons. I put in 1 tablespoon, and then I mix a little bit, and then I go ahead and I put in the other tablespoon. And so I like to do it just a little bit at a time, because this lets me kind of see how much liquid that I am using or kneading as I'm mixing the dough. And so you see, I'm just kind of using my one hand kind of like as a mixing claw in a sense, and using my other hand to kind of rotate the bowl. And I just kind of blending the dry flour and the dry ingredients into that wet mixture. And so we start to kind of bring together a nice ball, just like I'm doing there. And so you just want to keep pressing and mixing until you've pretty much got all of the dry ingredients gathered up together in the center of the ball with all of the rest of the dough. And then I'm kind of feeling to see, okay, is my dough, how's my dough coming together? Am I going to need a little bit more water? And I need a little bit more water. And so I'm going to get a little bit more of some lukewarm water, because you see how with the dough, I still have those streaks of the dry patches of the flour, and I need a little bit more of the liquid, because you can feel your dough will feel a little bit like tough, or feel a little bit hard. It doesn't feel soft and pliable like we need it to. And so when I add the additional water, I'm just going to be adding it just a couple of teaspoons at a time, about a teaspoon. If I need a little bit more, add another teaspoon, because we don't want sticky dough, but we do want our dough to be soft and we want it to be pliable. That's going to come from just adding a little bit more water, and also it's going to come from kneading. And so with dough, and see kind of like how our dough is looking, we still need to knead it. So I'm going to get my mat, I'm going to put a little bit of flour down, and we're going to be kneading our dough. Don't want to put too much flour down, just enough so it doesn't stick. And if you don't have a mat like I'm using, you can use a cutting board, or you can use a nice clean countertop. Either one of those is fine. And then to knead it, you see how I'm like using my fingers and I'm using my palms. I'm using my palms to push away, and then I use my fingers to gather my dough to bring it back towards me. And so we just want to keep doing this. And then I'm like feeling the dough and just like kneading it in my hands and in my palms. And we're going to knead the dough for 10 minutes back and forth. I use my knuckles and just press. Now, after kneading your dough for about 5 or 6 minutes, if you feel like you need 1 or 2 more drops of water, just a little bit more water, you can definitely put a little bit more water in the center of your dough, fold it over, and then continue to knead. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in my rosemary herb mixture, and this is what I'm using. It's a rosemary herb seasoned blend, and you can use whatever one that you find at the store or you might already have in your cabinet. You can also use some fresh rosemary if you like, a little bit of rosemary with a little bit of thyme. And so I like this blend. I'm going to use a total of 1 tablespoon. I'm putting in a half a tablespoon right now, kneading my dough, and then I'm going to put in the other half a tablespoon to make 1 full tablespoon. And if you don't have a rosemary or a rosemary herb blend, you can also substitute it by using an Italian blend. If you have an Italian herb blend of dry Italian herbs, you can use that as well. And you see how our dough is really becoming nice and soft and pliable. And that's because you really have to stick with using and working with dough, yeast-filled doughs. And so once we just really kneaded it, and it's been 10 minutes that I've been kneading it and working with it, and it's in that texture, that nice soft texture that we're looking for, I gather it into a ball and then I fold it into itself. You see, I'm just kind of like folding it in and just gathering all the dough at the bottom to make a nice round ball. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the bowl that we initially used to mix and build our dough in. I'm going to go ahead and wash this out real quick, dry it off, and then I'm going to put some extra virgin olive oil, about a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil that I'm going to put in my bowl. And then you want to take your dough, after you put your olive oil in your bowl, you want to take your dough and just kind of rotate the dough around the olive oil. You want to make sure that your dough is totally covered with the olive oil, as well as your bowl, the bottom and the sides are totally covered with that olive oil, because our dough is going to now need to rise, and you want to make sure it's not going to end up sticking at all to your bowl. And so I'm going to take some plastic wrap. I'm going to put some plastic wrap over top. You can also use a nice towel if you have a towel to use. You can use that as well. I just usually like to use some plastic wrap. So I'm going to put some plastic wrap over the top. I want to make sure that my bowl is totally covered with the plastic wrap. So I'm actually going to end up needing 2 pieces of plastic wrap because my bowl is kind of wide. And so I'm going to use 2 pieces just to totally wrap the side. Then we're going to let our dough rise in a nice place that's free from drafts, and that place for me is typically in my oven. So I'm going to just go ahead and put my dough in my oven. Going to let this rise till it's double in size. That's going to take about 45 minutes to a good hour. So our dough has risen, it has doubled in size. And so once your dough has risen and it's doubled in size, what we'll want to do next is I'm going to go ahead and look how our dough looks. You see how nice and pillowy it is when I go on and put my fingers in. Oh my gosh, this dough is coming together so nicely, y'all. And so what we're going to do next is just use just a little bit of flour, just a little bit. And then I'm just going to gently knead the dough just for about 1 minute, just like that. And just kind of bring it in. This is our second kneading that we're doing. We don't want to knead it too hard because we don't want to break down any of those air bubbles, those air pockets that are starting to fill inside of our focaccia. And for that second kneading, I didn't use my palms too much. I just used my fingertips to knead. Now, once our dough has gone on and we've kneaded it just for like a minute, minute and a half at the most, I take the bowl and I cover our dough. I'm going to just let this rest for about 10 minutes. So I'm going to let our dough rest for about 10 minutes. So our dough has rested for 10 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and remove the bowl. It takes a little oomph. I'm going to remove the bowl, and then you see our dough is still rising, and you see how beautiful it looks. It is so nice. It is so soft and pliable. I'm going to go ahead and reshape it into a nice ball that I'm looking for. And then I'm going to get my rolling pin, and I'm going to put a little bit of flour on my rolling pin. And now we're going to roll our dough. We don't want to press too hard on the dough because we have built up this nice dough, and it's got those bubbles in there, and it's going to be great when it bakes up our focaccia. And so we don't want to break down or press out too many of those air pockets. We really don't want to do that. And so we're just going to make our dough into a 10-inch round circle. And then once I'm at that 10-inch round circle, and my guide on my mat really helps me to get to those 10 inches. But if you don't have a mat like I'm using, you can also use a cake pan that's 9 inches. Measure that and then just go an inch beyond that. Now I'm going to take the dough and we're going to transfer our dough onto a stone, or you can use a cookie sheet as well. And then I put a little bit of white cornmeal, just about a teaspoon of the white cornmeal that I put just a little bit on the bottom. I also rubbed my stone with a little bit of extra virgin olive oil, and then I put the little bit of the cornmeal. Now we're going to let it do its final rise for about 15 minutes. I covered it with the plastic wrap and then my towel. So it's been about 15 minutes now. It's gone on and done its final rise. While it was rising, I was preheating my oven on 450 degrees. Now what we're going to do is, for the final step, we're going to use a little bit of the extra virgin olive oil, about a tablespoon, and we're going to make those classic indentations in our focaccia. Then I'm going to take the extra virgin olive oil that I have and then just go ahead and drizzle it all over the top of our focaccia dough, and it's going to give it that beautiful, beautiful golden brown color that we're looking for when it bakes up. Now next what we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of sea salt. If you don't have sea salt, you can use a little bit of kosher salt, but just a little bit of sea salt is going to give it that taste, like when you bite into focaccia. It's got that little bit of that saltiness on top, just like a little bit. That comes from that sea salt. Just a sprinkle of sea salt, about a half a teaspoon. Well, this is it, y'all. Our focaccia bread has baked up so beautifully. It is looking so good. Look at the herbs in there. My friends are going to truly enjoy this tonight. And then how you know if your dough is done is when you tap on it like I'm doing, you want it to sound hollow. I also baked up a nice apple pie to share with my friends, and in the description box below, I will have a link to the vlog on my apple pie. Well, this is what the focaccia bread looked like. It had all those wonderful air pockets in there. It was delicious. It went great with our finger foods and our wine. Well, that is it for me today. If you're not subscribed to my channel yet, go on and hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, don't forget to show it some love. Give it a thumbs up. Click share this video with a friend or family, and remember, it's always good when Dyvonne is cooking for the family. I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye, everybody.